Hey guys, welcome back to the Ice Cream Social Podcast. Here we are on episode 5. It's been a wonderful journey so far, and the love and support we've been getting is overwhelmingly great. Thank you so much for supporting us so far, and we hope we continue to give you this exceptionally wonderful podcast, and you'll enjoy it. I'm your host, Tyler, as always, and next to me, of course, is my lovely wife, Allie. How you doing today?
I'm good, and so excited to talk about this episode.
Awesome. This episode is going to be great. I know we have a couple things to get to before we get into the meat of the episode, but I want to say that I do predict we will have to do a part 2.
More than likely.
Hopefully with some other guests and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, first off, as you know, for our YouTube audience, we do like to break down what we are wearing. So what are you wearing today?
So I am wearing one of my favorite hoodies. I actually got it at Salem, Massachusetts. I absolutely love it because it's very witchy and it's purple and it has the pentagram. You know me, I'm just all about witches and satanic stuff. Not
okay.
really.
Well,
But I love all that genre stuff. And I think it kind of portrays a little bit of what we're going to be talking to in this episode. So.
A little bit. We are going to scratch the surface of what you have, but of course,
Yes.
kind of like a different direction.
Yes.
In the same, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, you're wearing something very interesting today.
Am I?
Yeah.
What's interesting about it?
It's giving me that Carol Baskin vibes.
Do you remember when Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin was like the talk of the world?
It was. And it was like annoying.
It was.
It was annoying.
COVID was, the beginning of COVID was so long ago. But yes, I am wearing a tiger striped robe. I believe you guys got me this for Christmas last year, and it's amazing. It's warm. It's comfortable.
Very
It's
comfy.
perfect to wear on the porch during the winter nights and whatnot. I do
Or
like
for stream.
Or for stream. Yeah, you have. I found it in this room. That's why I'm wearing it today. Is because in our media room I found it.
Yeah.
On top of that, I am wearing
stealing
a shirt I got from our guest on the last episode, Palace Off the Top Ropes. He gave me this shirt last time I was on his show. Show it off there. It's his podcast's logo. Check him out. It was a great interview we had with him last week. We definitely hope to have him on again. I'm also wearing a Dropkick Murphys hat, one of my favorite bands, the Irish punk band from Boston. It's got their name on the back, Pirate Sigil on the front. You did also get me this hat. Mm-hmm. So I am wearing a bunch of stuff that everybody bought me today.
Yep. Yeah.
I might take off this robe because it is a little bit hot in here.
Yeah, it is a little warm.
Anyway, unfortunately, as you can see by this barren table in between us, we do not have ice cream today. Somebody forgot to buy some at the store today when he left work.
You did.
Me. We will definitely get that fixed, and
Yes,
we know that's
we will
why
have
you're
other
here,
ice cream.
is
Yeah.
for the ice cream. So next episode we'll have ice cream.
Yes.
Anyways, on to the episode. What are we talking about today?
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
It's so excited.
My favorite soda, Fanta. I'm just kidding.
I'm just so excited because it's something that I'm really into. I do love fantasy, and I think the thing is the fantasy is just pretty much anything that your imagination
Exactly.
is a little bit of everything, and it gives me those Renaissance feel. It gives me
already coming off.
He's already taken off his clothes, guys. So you may want to tune into
Look at that.
YouTube
You talk
for
about
that.
Ren Fairs and you get me all hot and bothered.
Yeah, no,
No,
it's just a
you're-
little bit of
yeah.
everything, and it's a great genre. I think there's a big fandom of it, and
It's not only a big fandom, but it spreads generations.
yes, it really
You
does.
know, you have people our age, like, you mentioned Renaissance fairs. Like, you go to these Renaissance fairs, you have people our age. You have people that are like 60, 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing Dungeons and Dragons back in the day. And, we all relate. So
Yes.
I think that fantasy is probably the one genre that not only, like, transcends, because it's such a big umbrella.
It
You
really
have,
is.
of course, like, your basic fantasies when you think of it, like Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
and Game of Thrones, but Star Wars is actually
Mythical
considered
creature
fantasy.
stuff,
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
honestly, witchy and all of like demonic and stuff like that is also kind of into
Right.
that fantasy genre as well.
Yeah, because supernatural can be kind of considered underneath that
Yeah,
umbrella of
I
fantasy.
agree. Yeah.
So it's definitely the widest ranged genre out there. On this episode today, we're going to specifically talk about a few, like the huge one that just dropped this past Sunday,
Yep.
which is the House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
10 million people tuned in on
Yeah.
HBO. I know you had mentioned to me, and you actually sent it to me, that video of the apartment building.
Yes, on TikTok. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure it's been going around. But it's some recording in this apartment building, and you can see that everybody was tuning in to Game of Thrones because every window you can see the same reflection,
Yeah.
the same lighting of the shows that people were putting on. So it was just so cool just seeing that. It's like there's such a big fandom. There really is a big
it
fandom.
was. I
of
mean, Game of Thrones was like the biggest thing in the world for
It
like
was.
the last 11 years.
Yeah, I mean, it was so long, and it was just, it's perfect, honestly. For me at least, I really, I loved Game of Thrones. I really enjoyed it. That's a show that I've actually watched and repeat pretty often. Just
Well, you
to get
had
that.
to, because I actually didn't watch Game of Thrones until we started dating.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know what it was, but I mean, the show came out 11 years ago. We've been together for 6, so it tells you literally there was,
A
what,
big
like
gap.
5 seasons already before we
Yes.
started dating.
Actually, it was the 5th season that
Yeah.
it was just finishing up during that time.
You know, my reason for not watching it was because Ned Stark, Sean Bean, he got killed in the end of the season. That was the first episode I watched.
Yeah,
back-
and
yeah.
you literally watched that.
That was
last
it.
episode
Like
of
back
season
in,
one.
you know, on my parents' cable or satellite, it didn't have the description of the episode or what episode it was. It just said Game of Thrones.
Really? Huh.
So I tuned in right as the part when he's getting his head chopped off. And I was like, bro, that's the dude on the poster. Like, that's the guy on, like, everything you see Game of Thrones, it's him sitting on the thing. I was like, you're going to just act like the first. I was like, this show is not going to go anywhere.
I think that's what I liked about it, though.
Because it
About-
killed everybody?
that, you know, I think that's I don't like shows when some of the characters that you know that they should have died a long time ago
Fair.
or stuff like that. I want them, like, if they're supposed to die, they kill them off already, or like, oh, I don't want this whole hokey stuff of like, oh no, they needed they survive everything and they're
Yeah.
gonna, you know, make it all the way down to
Like
the
Fast and
like
Furious.
9th season. Yeah,
No,
kinda.
to slightly segue, I agree with you on that because it's a different show. But the Star Wars Rogue One, I did like that movie was good. But then when I realized that none of those people survive because they're not in any of the other Star Wars, to get those plans to the Death Star to Leia,
Yep.
it meant so much more to me.
Yes.
So I feel what you mean by like actually having death. Like death is an actual
Yeah.
thing in the show.
Especially when you kind of get into the character.
Yeah.
And then boom, out of nowhere he's dead, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I think that's the one thing that got to me, especially like at the first episode of Game of Thrones with throwing the kid
throwing
off the window.
Bran
I was
out the
like,
window?
they're gonna be like that. I was like, oh, it's one of these.
And then Homeboy ended up
And-
being like the king at the end of it.
Yes, I was just like, dang. I think that's the one thing I really enjoyed about Game of Thrones is it's how
It was
raw,
unpredictable.
Yeah, and unpredictable, and man, it's just it gave you that suspense,
Yeah.
and that I think that's what maybe I always drove into it because it just brought me back all the time.
Well, yeah, it made you equally as mad and happy at
Yes.
at your TV at the end of every week.
Yes.
You know, and it was not just a show. I mean, there was obviously just the slews of merch.
Mm-hmm.
There's like mobile games of it. There was a concert series that we actually went to.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it was phenomenal. Again, I went and saw the concert before I actually finished watching the show. So
Yeah,
it
you
had huge parts of the show in the concert on the screen while like the orchestra was playing like the Red Wedding or playing like the Rains of Castamere. And I had no idea what was going on.
And
But
it
you
was
could hear
so
like the
beautiful.
collective sigh from like the crowd. Like when that happened, everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh, and I'm like,
Or the Red Wedding when they're like,
yeah, and I'm like, what's
no.
going? Like,
And
okay,
I mean, people
like.
were literally crying during those times. I remember that.
So
I
here's
mean,
me
yeah.
never watching the show, like, oh, that must be important. And then fast forward to me actually watching the show, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what they were all crying
Yes.
about. I understand now.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's if you have not gone to see the orchestra for Game of Thrones, I really recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the music and.
Oh, seeing it
it's
live
beautiful.
is. I mean, hearing it in the show is one thing, but actually seeing it live is.
But I
phenomenal.
think one thing why I have a huge respect about Game of Thrones is the craftsmanship on
Yeah.
on everything, not just the music, the costume work, the artistry of the scenes, the making of everything of the stages and all that.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
it's just
costumes. I mean, the world itself.
yeah, the world itself. I'm one of those. I love to watch the behind the scenes to a lot of the movies, especially when I can tell that shows and movies are very invested in so much work of craftsmanship that you could tell a lot of it either was handmade or took so much time. So I love that stuff, and that's just my artistic me.
Yeah.
Because I am a crafter, and that's where I find so much respect for Game of Thrones is the fact that I actually saw all the work they
The hard
put
work
in.
into it.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, I think to me, like,
it's beautiful.
I like fantasy. What I enjoy about fantasy is, I mean, yeah, you look at your Game of Thrones costumes, look at your Lord of the Rings stuff. To me, a fantasy is it's about world building, and they're very practical with their costumes because they have to be.
Yep.
You know, it can't be, and I'm not taking a dig at superhero shows or superheroes in general, but like a lot of these superhero movies are like slapping on CGI costumes. They're not actually taking the time to build out the armor,
Yep.
which, as you can tell in Game of Thrones and now with House of the Dragon, where it's been so like meticulously made.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably sitting there like actually making this chainmail by hand.
Yep.
So that's what I love about that stuff. Is just you can like you know Ali said, is just you can see the time and the effort actually put into
Yeah.
that show.
And I think another thing is I actually follow a lot of artists, a lot of like costume makers, especially, or prop makers. And the fact that they actually hired some of the followers that I actually follow, and they brought them onto shows to create either props or create even just the little simple things for the costumes or stuff like that. That's the one thing that I think I found a lot of pleasure of this is the fact that a lot of the items that were used on there that were from some of the artists that I follow,
Right.
and crafters
Yeah.
that I've been following. I was like, holy cow, they got the opportunity to
It's
work
a sense of like you're happy,
them.
you know, you're happy for
Yes.
these people that you've seen them just get so much success in their
Yes.
field, and you're like, hey, now you're like you reach that top level.
Yes, yeah, and there's actually an artist that I follow. She actually makes these beautiful fantasy outfits. They're like fairy tale outfits, and she was actually in one of the shows for one of the fairies. They actually did use her for Maleficent, and then they actually used her for Carnival Row as well.
Oh,
for
the
outfits
show
and-
with Orlando
yeah.
Bloom and Cara
Yes.
Delevingne. Yeah.
So that's another thing is that I love that they're doing that. They're bringing on so many different artists to make this happen.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So Game of Thrones is back, guys. It's been
Yes.
3 years since the finale. House of the Dragon set 172 years before the birth of Daenerys Targaryen. So it's like her great 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 grandparents.
Yep.
And of course, the Iron Throne is being fought over once again, or I should say for the first time, because obviously once again
Yeah.
is when the Game of Thrones happened.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this show had started off strong. I have opinions. I'm gonna obviously wait until further in the season to kind of pick a side of the fence, just because I feel like they're shoehorning too many Game of Thrones references in. I understand it's the same world. These people, I mean, not the specific characters, but the houses and whatnot were still around. But I don't know if I like that they're doing so much to.
And I don't know if they're. I feel like I get it, but at the same time, I also think they're doing it to trying to correct things.
Okay.
You know,
I can see that.
like corrections of the stuff that they
The
kinda-
terrible season 8 or
Yeah.
the mixed review season 8.
Yeah,
Some people
pretty-
loved it, some people
pretty
hated
much. I
it.
feel like that's what they're trying to do, but I also think that they're trying to at least let everybody who has nothing familiar with Game of Thrones or is not familiar with them, just kind of give them an idea, an aspect of what it's actually coming from.
I'm sure
I
there's
don't
the
know.
people out there, but I cannot see how you would just go into House of Dragon without watching any of Game of
That's
Thrones.
true. That's very true.
Like I'm
yeah.
sure there's got to be one, but it blows my mind that you would wait 11 years to go, oh hey, I'm gonna tune into this dragon show.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's acting is great in House of the Dragon. The characters are really really good. I personally am not a fan of Matt Smith, who plays Daemon Targaryen. I just don't know what it is about him. I just think he looks funny. Maybe that's what it is. But other than that, I mean, it's personal bias.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I'm really excited to see more. I don't think there's a show. That's another thing, maybe we can get into this in another episode because I don't want to spend too much time on it. But releasing shows episodically versus all at once like Netflix does. I love it because we can sit there
Yes.
and blow through a show, kind of like a giant movie. But you know, I think I would appreciate like The Witcher more if they had released it episodically, like once a
Yes.
week versus all 10 episodes at once.
Yep.
Because like here, you have that suspense, like it ends and you're like, oh man, what's gonna happen next? And you
Yep.
have to wait till next Sunday.
Yeah.
I do think that Netflix has kind of spoiled a lot of people with that, and at the same time, it's hurting them. But it's a bittersweet thing where you like because you get everything all at once. It's where you can watch it at your own pace versus like having to catch up every week and then of course listening to Ted at work talk about it or whatever. But at the same time, you do miss out on a sense of hype, getting everything all at once.
And I totally agree on that.
Yeah.
I do prefer more the suspense and give me that week to kind of marinate, I
Yeah,
guess, into
to
the
think about it because I mean,
episode. Because I mean, even till it's what are we today? Thursday.
yeah,
And Sunday was the House of Dragon. I'm still marinated on that
Yeah.
first episode. I'm still thinking about like, everything what we got,
what's gonna happen next? Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's definitely it's definitely building that hype for me.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I really enjoy that more than something that I'm gonna I can just bench watch, but then I just get that nostalgia for a little
Yeah.
bit instead of
All at once, and then you're like, damn, what am I gonna do for another year
Yes.
until the next one comes
Yeah.
out?
Yeah.
But definitely, House of the Dragon, it feels like it's firing on all cylinders. Definitely picked up right where Game of Thrones left off, so it does not feel. I mean, it feels like the same world, the same everything. It's great. It just feels like it, took a couple years off.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Game of Thrones, like again, we're not trying to spoil anything. It's still really fresh.
Yeah.
We might have another episode later in the season where we kind of start to spoil the beginnings. Once everything starts to make sense, so we could actually discuss it.
Yeah, a couple episodes in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So-
We definitely don't want to spoil it for y'all. I know not everybody has the time in their hands
Right.
to really
Watch
tune
it just
in.
yet.
Yeah, but so we're definitely gonna give it some time before we start spoiling stuff, and we will let you, of course, know ahead of time.
So,
So.
well, it's something we can spoil because if you haven't seen a show that's been out for 11 years, it's on you. What was one of your favorite parts of Game of Thrones?
Oh, for Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
that's the thing. There's so many good parts.
Pick your top 3.
Oh my God. You had to put me in the spot on that. I honestly, good lord.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go
Okay.
first. let me marinate and go back a couple.
Marinate. My top 3 parts of Game of Thrones was the Red Viper fighting the Mountain, which is was a really good part. Shout out Pedro Pascal, amazing actor, Mandalorian, Narcos. Yeah, it was a great fight. It was funny to watch the overly cocky dude just get his ass absolutely handed to him.
Can I just stop right here for 1
Sure.
second and interrupt you real quick? You said Pedro Pascal and
Yeah.
the fact that he's gonna be in Last of Us. I'm so excited.
I've never played The Last of Us, so I don't have the hype. You realize I didn't have a PlayStation until I married you.
I'm sure y'all are seeing like my face. When y'all watch this on YouTube, you're gonna see my freaking jaw drop.
I
because it
haven't
just
played The Last of
happened.
Us. I haven't.
can't believe you're a gamer. Good lord. Anyways, but yes,
And an Xbox.
Pedro
Oh,
Pascal.
God.
I'm so excited for him and his part of Last of Us. It's
Speaking of Game of Thrones, also it's got Bella Ramsey, who was Lydia Mormont, right? I think is her name, the little bear, in the later seasons.
oh yes,
Yeah,
that's
she's
right.
playing
You're totally
Ellie.
right. That's right.
Yeah,
Duh.
yeah. So
Speaking
two
of that.
Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back at it again.
Yeah,
Okay,
Illuminati.
sorry for.
So yeah,
the
that was
second part.
my third. The second part was probably, I think anything on the north side of the wall, like when Jon Snow's like back there with the wildlings. I think just, all of those scenes were so cool
There
because
was a-
again, just like the world, the expansion of the world was amazing.
Yep.
Just because it really felt like you could kind of pick from our world where you could kind of see where the kingdoms would be placed. And I think that just it really had it made you related to a lot of it, but it also kind of like fleshed out the world. My number one spot is when Khal Drogo pours the gold on top of Daenerys' brother. That's my all-time favorite.
Yes.
Like it's the best death to me in the series.
Yeah.
It beats out Joffrey's death to me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It beats out Ramsay's death. When he just melts all the gold and he's like a crown for a king and perfect.
Yes, exactly.
All right, you think of yours?
Okay, yeah. So, I think my and I don't remember the season of this. I'm really bad at the time frames and what episode and all that stuff. But the dragon, when Daenerys is fighting with Jamie Lannister, and he
Oh,
almost
that
blows
was
him.
season
7.
7?
I think
8?
it's 7. I think it's 7
think
or
it's-
6. But anyways,
No, it's 7 or 8.
I think that was one of my top favorite, just because of the dragon. Again, I really love dragons. I wish they were real. I wish I had one as a pet, honestly. But I love anything with the dragon scene. So I think that one was my favorite, with the whole
When he's
her-
running at the dragon?
Yes, with the
Yeah.
horse, and like she
Excuse me.
Drogo freaking blows him pretty much into the water. Doesn't kill him though. I wish he could have just killed him. But anyways,
Dracarys.
yeah. I thought that was beautiful.
Okay.
And then the other scene that I actually really enjoyed is with Arya and the No Faces.
Oh, yeah. The Faceless Man or something like that?
Faceless Man,
Something like that.
and her training time too.
Yeah.
I think I really enjoyed that. That was another one of my favorite scenes. And then
Which went nowhere.
it really didn't really go nowhere, but I thought it was just so cool seeing how she trained,
Yeah.
and how she became,
She
it
was
really became her character.
Magically blind for like 3 episodes and then got her side back.
Yeah. But I just really enjoyed that. And then, of course, the other one of my favorite ones would probably have to be the ice dragon fighting with the White Walkers against with
Okay.
the black.
And the was it the Battle of Winterfell? Or
Yeah,
whatever,
the
that
Battle of
one?
Winterfell.
I think it was, yeah.
I think I really actually enjoyed that. Just because it really got into more intense of again dragons,
Yeah.
and then fighting those two and stuff like that. And then I think I liked that ending, which led up to, I guess, season 8.
Well, that was in season 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the ending of season 7 had the ice
With
dragon.
with the ice dragon
Yeah.
and his
Yeah,
opening.
that was the
yeah,
end of season 7.
I thought that was so cool. So I again, I love anything with dragons in it. So all the dragon scenes are honestly some of my favorite. Although the ones where dragons got killed, I didn't like that.
There's a certain group of people that believe that, or they, and I see their point, but that they're not actual dragons, that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
wyverns, because a dragon has to have like 4 legs and then
Yeah,
wings.
yeah.
But I mean, it's a dragon.
I consider them dragons. I don't care if
It's-
y'all really want to go that technical and stuff like
well,
that.
you can come out of your
you
mom's
know.
basement and fight me.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, I believe they're still dragons. I don't care. I
Sure.
love them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
They're great. And I think that's what I love about fantasy shows and movies, is the fact that it's anything with dragons for me, it has to look like it's part of that world.
Right.
Or like, in that it fits well. The graphics are great on it.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing, is that they really did great on
Well, yeah,
making
because
them
being
part of that
being a
world.
mythical beast, I mean, there's always a sense of like, okay, maybe it doesn't belong in that world.
Yeah, exactly.
But with Game of Thrones, you really did feel like, hey, this was the world that the dragon should be in.
Yeah, exactly.
I see
like,
that.
Yeah, especially like it almost makes you feel like, you know how you can go to like the castles and stuff like that, where they actually filmed some of the Game of Thrones.
Right.
I mean, you may actually go and travel there and actually walk those castles, and then
You're waiting for the dragon.
Yeah, you're literally looking, where is he? Where is he? You
Yeah.
know, it's one of those. It's that good feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Awesome. So moving on from Game of Thrones, this isn't the only big powerhouse name of fantasy that's getting ready to drop. On September 2nd, I want to say it is. Please be right. Is the Lord of the Rings series, the Rings of Power, which takes place, I don't know, a billion years before the Fellowship of the Ring. It's basically the story of, I guess, how Lord of the Rings became a thing. It's got like young Galadriel, who was played by Kate Blanchett in the original trilogy and The Hobbit. Sauron is supposed to be hot and sexy before he becomes the Dark Lord. So I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I feel like Game of Thrones at time. I mean, Game of Thrones is a very dark and gritty show.
It really is.
It's a really dark and gritty world. It's really ultra violent at sometimes. It's very brutal. To me, while there is parts of Lord of the Rings that are kind of like that, I do feel that it has a sense of mysticalness to it.
Yes.
And a sense of it's
Fantasy,
a fantasy, right?
and,
Fantasy is
it's
the
just
only
great.
way you can describe it.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that because I feel like it's a true fantasy. It's,
Yeah. And it's more light. I
Yes,
guess there's more,
yes.
prettiness and more
Exactly.
lively of sceneries, and I think that's why I really also enjoy Lord of the Rings. That's also another favorite of mine, and it gives you that elf world and all
Right.
of that
Yes.
aspect, which is something
The elves, the
also,
dwarves. Yeah.
something that is a big fandom of,
Yeah.
you know.
I that's another thing too is yeah, it's and also I'm super excited for it too because the first Lord of the Rings movie came out 20 years ago, I think it is now. So just the fact that this
They're
is
bringing
this
it
it's
back.
bringing it back and you have these advancements in the way you make movies and shows.
Yeah.
So I think you're able to actually grab more of that fantasy
Yeah.
world and experience more of it. So I'm really hyped for that.
And I mean, and the fact that it was great back
Yeah.
then,
Oh yeah.
imagine now. So that's I think
Exactly.
that what's more exciting is that just now how everything has been developed on movies and shows
Yeah.
now is just such a
If it
high
was good
level.
then, it's good. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how
Yeah.
it's gonna turn out,
So-
and I know it's already gonna be good.
It's good. I mean, we're gonna have what is it, Lord of the Rings on Thursdays or Fridays, and then Game of Thrones on Sundays for the next couple weeks. It's awesome.
You're gonna get that good feel, and then you're gonna get
Yeah,
that like
fuck. Yeah.
that rough feel.
Yeah.
of it.
Why I sit here patiently waiting for the next season of The Witcher.
Exactly. That's another fantasy.
Yeah. Well, moving on to that, we're gonna talk about our favorite fantasies. I know again, like we don't know anything really about Lord of the Rings, so that's why we haven't talked much about it. Don't want to spoil Game of Thrones, so we will revisit those topics obviously once they do come out and
Yeah.
we have a little bit more to work with.
And give more time to the people
Yeah.
to actually watch
To watch it, exactly. Yeah, we don't want to be those assholes that spoiled everything. So what are a couple of your favorite fantasy, shows,
Genre?
movies, games, anything like that?
Again, I'm gonna go back to just anything with dragons. I do love it. Everything with dragons, mythical creatures. I do love anything with mythical creatures. I think I talked about this on another episode of Greek mythology.
Yeah, on our fandom episode, yeah.
Like Beowulf is actually a good one that I like because it had Medusa and like that kind of stuff. I want more stuff with Medusa. I'm just saying. I don't know.
You think you're thinking of Clash of the Titans? Because Beowulf didn't have Medusa. Beowulf had Grendel.
I thought she.
Beowulf was like Norse.
Or maybe I am. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
You were thinking of Clash of the Titans.
Clash of Titans.
Yeah,
I thought that was another one. What's the one with Angelina Jolie as?
that's Beowulf.
Are you sure
As
that's
Grendel?
not?
Yeah. That's Beowulf.
Okay, maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah, she's
on that.
Grendel.
Yeah. Okay.
I think,
It's been a
yeah.
little while, so I'm a little forgetful on things like that. But yeah. No, anything like mythical creatures and stuff like that. Another favorite one of mine is definitely Narnia. I actually like Narnia, and no, I didn't read the books. I know the books. Everybody says books are better. Yes. I know books are better, but just the aspect of the movie and everything, and again that fantasy. It
Yeah.
brought me into the world. That's the one thing I always look for. When anything fantasy, show wise or movie wise,
Takes you from where you're at and
or
puts you in the
game
world.
wise,
Yeah.
also, as long as it brings me into that world, boom, you got me. Like that, I'm a fan. If it's something that it's not dragging me to the world, then I'm not gonna be a fan of.
Yeah.
But I want to feel the fantasy. Like I want to
Yeah.
feel like I'm part of that world. It's almost like if I'm going to Renaissance Festival, and when that's why I think I enjoy going to Renaissance Festival is the fact that you can dress up as a fairy, as whatever you want, anything
Right.
mythical or anything, and you go into that, and they literally get into character, and like
Well,
it brings you into the
you
world.
forget you're like in a town outside of Houston.
Exactly.
With TRF.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
you go there, like you
Yeah.
really feel like you're in a whole nother world. And,
Yeah, you really like
that's what- yeah.
transferred into that world, and you're part of it.
And that's what a good fantasy is if like the time you're watching it, whether it's an hour-long show, the 80-hour game, 300 and something hours in my case for The Witcher, or like a movie, if it transports you to another world for that time, then it's successful.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing why I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy is that again,
Yeah.
it has that fantasy to it, and it's again why they're called Final Fantasy. But
Yeah, if it was a game that did not have anything fantasy about it and it was called Final Fantasy, I would want my money back.
yeah, no kidding, but
Yeah.
but seriously, it's stuff like that it just I love that kind of stuff, and it really brings me in. As long as it brings me into the world, I'm good. A big one of my favorite shows, honestly, that I've been also waiting along is Carnival Row.
Carnival Row is a good one. If you
God,
guys
that
haven't
is-
seen it, it's on Amazon.
That's so good.
It's-
It's so good, and I want more.
It's very like Industrial Revolution type, I guess,
Yes.
era, but it's got fairies. Oh shit, like the minotaur looking guys. I
Yes.
don't know what they're called, but I mean it's a very like humans and fae kind of thing. And
Yes, and that's one. I think another thing talking about phase is I know it's Disney, but I love Maleficent. I really
Yeah.
really love Maleficent. It was so good, and I want more of either her story or just more of the phase
her
story.
her kinds
her
story.
kinds. Yes, I really wish. Maybe not Disney, but maybe some another production can take an idea from that and just kind of create a Fey world.
Yeah.
Man, I will love it. It just would be beautiful. I know it would.
I
And I
just
want to cosplay more Fays.
I just want everything Witcher. No, I'm not. I'm not just about that. I do love a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Dragon Age is amazing. Fable, those games. God, I mean, the Fable was one of my favorite ones. I was playing the remastered version. I really wish they'd make another one of those. And of course, Dragon Age, the next one's coming out eventually. Same thing. They're finally making a show about that, which is really cool for Netflix. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned Carnival Row. It's a great show. I'm in it because it's fantasy, and then I actually really enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed it. There's another show. I think they only ended up doing one season, but I haven't read the books. But I think it's called like Outer Worlds is like the book series, but it's called The Watch, and it's essentially like it's this police force, and of course it's like an alternate world universe thing, where it's a police force that can just it's in the city, and I'm sorry if you're a fan of it, and I can't remember the names of the city or anything, but it's got ogres, golems, werewolves,
Okay.
everything like that. So it's
Yep.
a city where just everybody's all like in it, and of course this police force is going through and policing everything. There's like what I liked about it is there's like a thieves guild, and there's like a merchants guild, and
Yeah.
of course like if you bust a guy who's part of the thieves guild, he drops his like little guild card, and you're like, oh no, can't take him in because he's under the
Yeah.
protection. So it's very like
Oh my
like a crime story, but with all these different walks of life when
I
it
gotta
comes to fantasy
remember
characters.
this name of a show. It's old, or maybe not too old, but it was something similar to that. Was it Lost Girl?
That's the one with the succubus.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
But
Lost
it had
Girl.
also mystical
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love
Yeah,
that
because like
show.
the dude was like a werewolf or whatever,
and they
he
never
was like the
finished
partner.
it, right? I think
No,
they
it
kept-
finished.
It
Yeah,
did? Okay, it
I
did.
think
Okay.
it didn't.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
It didn't end on a. I mean, I think they got canceled, but I think they ended up finishing it because it's on Netflix if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
god, that was
Where
my
she was the
show
succubus,
right there.
right? Yeah.
Yes, Lost Girl. If y'all haven't seen, you should. It again, and I liked it because it did have a little bit of that fantasy, mystical kind of stuff, the creatures and all that, and I was just like
Yeah.
into it. I loved it. I really did.
But I watch anything with that stuff, man. I mean, like I said, The Watch. These are the most recent ones I've watched. Is like Carnival Row, The Watch. But beyond that, one of my all-time favorites, and I really wish someone would just say, fuck it, and re-release it. It was called Mystic Knights of Tirana. Way back in the 90s. It was like medieval Power Rangers.
Yeah, I think I
Where they,
remember hearing
transformed and they had colored armor and whatnot. But it literally, I mean, it was the coolest fucking thing in the world. It was like, just imagine if like King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table were just merged with like Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Coolest thing. I used to watch it. I don't know what ever happened to the show. I was too young to realize what ratings and everything were. But that was one of my all-time favorites. Of course, getting into King Arthur, like anything Arthurian legend, like the King Arthur movies. Those are I love it all. I don't think I've seen a fantasy film that I didn't like. I know we had, like, in a previous.
There is one.
Which one? Oh, okay.
Well,
yeah,
that we're gonna
alright.
get into in just a sec.
Yeah.
We're gonna kind of
That's fair.
on it.
Okay, so yeah, shows, Carnival Row, movies, anything fantasy. Witcher, obviously, for everything, because they
Harry
did have
Potter.
See, but that's the thing is like we've already talked about Harry Potter. Harry Potter to me is like something different. It's its own thing.
Yeah, it really is.
I should, I guess, count Harry Potter amongst like the fantasy stuff, but at the same time, it's done. It's over with in my mind. Yeah, they're still putting out movies, but I'm not having to line up at midnight like I used to for them. So
Well, I think that, and I think more of it, the like Fantastic Beasts is
Yeah.
that really has more of the fantasy into it.
yeah,
you know?
it's more of the creatures. It definitely expands the
creatures and
world.
all of that aspects of it. Yeah, and then of course, I mean, there's so much. There is
There is.
really so many fantasy shows and movies and everything we can talk on forever.
Yeah.
We're definitely hitting some of the like just top ones. But what's another good one?
Well, the one that, the next one we have on our list here to talk about, and this is kind of where I guess the line blurs,
Yes.
is Avatar.
Yeah.
I hate that movie.
I know, and I don't understand why you would hate it. I see where you came from because you told me a
Yeah.
little bit about it. But go ahead.
And this is, for clarification, we're not talking about Last Airbender.
No.
That was a terrible train wreck of a movie on its own. The cartoon's great. But I'm talking about the Blue People movie. The Smurfs in Space. No, Avatar to me is the exact same story, just a CGI computer-generated update of Ferngully, the Last Rainforest,
Yeah.
from
Which
1992.
Story wise, I can see.
Identical. Obviously, with blue people on a different planet and fairies in the rainforest. But I don't know, maybe that's why it took me out of it, because I watched it and I was like, this is just Ferngully with real life people and less Robin Williams. I also don't like the overly huge computer generated messes. I mean, it was too pretty to me, I think. Maybe that's a terrible criticism of it, but it was way too pretty to me.
See, and I think that's where I enjoy it the most. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's something different. It was something different than your
Your superhero movies?
either superhero or alien movies or
Okay, okay.
that kind of aspect for me. It again, it brought me into the world
Yeah.
of Avatar, and that's I think what I really like. And I just wish they would have. I know that they kind of brought in almost like the real people into it and the military kind of aspect to it. 'Cause
Yeah.
it kind of had a military aspect to it.
Well, that's what
too.
it was. Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
people.
So,
trying to-
and I get it. And so that's why I am excited for Avatar 2, because I think it's going to go into now more them and focus on what their story is. And, I think it's going to be a great, but it's also still combining both worlds because, it did show clips of, if you haven't seen the trailer, it does show a clip where it looks like some avatars are working with the military at the base and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting, but I think I do want more of it just because it's just it's a different, it's just different movie. It really is. Sorry, I'm stuttering a lot, guys. But
Well, you can't think of anything but different. It is different.
it is. It's different. It's beautiful. Another thing that I am proud about it is the technical aspect of how it was created.
Sure.
Which I can see how much work and how much effort it took to create this
Yeah.
movie, and that's why I find a lot of respect. And I think that's what draws me a lot to creative movies like this, is the fact that there's so much creativity to it.
I mean,
And it's beautiful.
I'll give it to James Cameron, the director of that movie. He's made some really good movies. I mean, hell, he made Titanic. But Alita, Battle Angel.
Yeah.
Of course, I think Robert Rodriguez eventually directed that one, but I think it was James Cameron helped produce it and whatnot. So, I mean, he's definitely has an eye for
Yeah.
very
Creative.
movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I think my main concern with Avatar was, besides the Ferngully, if you take that story away, it was just too pretty to me. I found myself like getting lost in the environments and not paying attention to what the people on the screen were doing.
And I can see that. You can definitely get lost in the environment. There is definitely a lot going
Yeah.
on. And you just kind of want to look around
Exactly.
and look at the whole world. It's definitely a movie that you have to always see in the big screen.
I think I watched it
But I
in
do
IMAX.
agree
So,
that you
yeah.
can get lost.
Yeah.
You can definitely get lost in it because it's just so much to see. One, because you just never you never seen something like that.
Right.
I mean, if imagine if we have, and I think Disney World.
Disney has it. The Animal Kingdom has it.
Yeah. Disney World has actually created a world
Yeah.
of that. That'd be cool to see for me. I would love to go see that.
I guess I have to go with you.
Well, obviously, if I'm gonna have to go to the Harry Potter stuff, you're gonna have to go.
Hey, you
with me.
like the Harry Potter stuff.
I don't.
You enjoyed the ride. I got sick.
I like the dragon. That's it.
I got sick.
That's it. I mean,
And I wanted to fight a girl.
I like the ride. Yeah, I like the rides, but
I
Harry
wanted
Potter.
to fight that child.
Again, it's just not my forte. But anyways.
Beat that child for not having fun.
But yes, more about fantasy, guys.
The people are like, what is he talking about, beating a child?
Wait, what?
When we went to the wand shop,
Oh.
and we're all crowded in there.
Okay, hold on. He has this.
I have to tell this story because
Okay.
it infuriated me so much to this day. and we are talking about fantasy here.
I know.
So we go to Ollivander's wand shop, and like you go in, and they have like this big old spectacle. It's like 20 people, and they pick someone out of the crowd. And like the wizards don't choose the wands choose the wizards. So they're like, how to try out this wand? Like point it over here, and see if the lights come up. And they have like little microchips or whatever in the wand, so it reacts to the environment. Well, this little girl is just like, this is for YouTube here. I'm gonna try my best to explain what I'm doing, but go watch this part of the show. She's just very like lethargic with like that, and they're like, oh, Lumos to the light, and she's just like Lumos or whatever, and I'm like,
She wasn't into it.
she wasn't into it. There you go, basically, all right, she wasn't into it, and I was just so mad because I was like, bitch, I will fucking Lumos the shit out of this place. Like, give me that wand, we lighten up everything. Like I was just, and then of course you get to keep the wand after. It's like an $80 wand that you go to buy in the gift shop, and Sally Fart Pants over there didn't, got to keep it. And me, who grew up with this shit, didn't get it. So it hurt. All right, I was 29 at the time. It hurt.
Oh
28.
my god. Yes. All right. Let's not talk about beating children now.
No children were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, Avatar 2 is coming out this year. This Christmas. Shazam got moved. I don't know if you saw that. It was also supposed to come out the same
Shazam
day.
who? I'm just kidding.
Well, they didn't want to compete with Avatar, so obviously they moved.
Of course.
It's gonna sell. It's gonna make $1 billion. So I'm like just pissing into the wind when it comes to my complaints about Avatar.
No, but definitely, there's so much more about fantasy.
There is.
It's such a big genre to talk about that honestly we're more than likely gonna have to have a part 2.
Definitely.
And the fact that there is such a big fandom of it, and it's such a open community.
Yes.
To so much more, because like I said, fantasy is literally about your imagination.
That's right.
It really is.
That's absolutely right.
I think another perfect one, and yes, it's comic book, but honestly, Sandman.
Sandman. Oh yeah.
Sandman is
Sandman is
fantasy.
amazing.
And
Straight up.
it's so good. Even though yes, it is comic book.
Well, look at the show. The show didn't use anybody but Constantine.
Yeah.
Was the only person they used from the comics, and look how successful, look how amazing it was.
Yes.
Because the Sandman, I mean, he interacts with like Batman, he interacts with other people in the comic, but they didn't do any of that in the show, and it was phenomenal.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
it was a fantastic show, honestly.
and that was a beautiful show, man.
It really
like you're talking about pretty things, like Sandman was beautiful.
really.
So definitely check that one out. Of course, if you haven't watched The Witcher yet, what is wrong with you? We cannot be friends. Watch The Witcher. I'm kidding.
It also has Henry Cavill. Come on.
Okay. The second most handsome man alive. Did you see that?
I know.
It's weird.
He's still my top, though.
Carnival Row, we mentioned it a few times. It's really cool.
Really good.
It's really good show on Amazon.
Hurry up!
Season 2 should be coming out hopefully soon.
I don't
This-
know, man.
this year.
We've been waiting for how long?
2 years.
Yeah.
Came out at the beginning of COVID. Well, COVID had a lot to do with
I
a lot of this
know.
stuff.
Damn you, COVID.
Check out The Watch. It's on BBC. I don't know if it's anywhere else. I think it's on BBC. Another one, you had mentioned Lost Girl. That's another. We're kind of starting to go back in time now because a lot of these shows did come out in previous years.
Another good one is actually Sabrina Teenage Witch. The new
one was dark, gritty,
it's
but
dark,
so
gritty, but it
fantasy.
has some fantasy, and
Yeah.
again, it's in that witchy aspect of it, which
Ooh.
is something I actually really like and enjoy.
One that I really liked, and I'm sad they canceled it after one season, was Cursed.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry for yelling.
Yes.
agree.
Cursed. It was really good. Maybe it didn't have the best actors in it. They didn't maybe commit to the roles, but I mean, hey,
agree.
I'm just saying. But it was such a cool thing.
Yeah.
It's the story of the Lady of the Lake, Nimue,
Yes.
the
God,
the
so
one who in certain
so
Arthur
mad.
stories gives Arthur the sword of Excalibur.
Yes.
Awesome, loved it.
I wish they would have continued.
Definitely
that.
wish they would have continued it. It was amazing.
It was really good.
It was
really good.
Yeah, it was a Netflix one, so I think it's still on Netflix. Sadly, they won't continue it. But Cursed, I mean, I just thought of it now.
I really don't like when I mean I get it because I just wish they would at least do 2 or 3
Well,
episodes just to wrap
Well, yeah,
it up.
exactly. Give them a chance to finish the story.
Yeah, at
like
least.
say, hey, you're not
come
gonna
on,
get a series.
I
but,
hate when
yeah.
they come and just cancel and that's it. Like it just leaves you with that suspense and you're never gonna get it. And I hate it. It's like
And-
no, at least hey, okay, it's gonna get canceled. You know what? wrap it up in like 2 or
Exactly,
3
yes,
episodes. Give him
perfect.
at
Just-
least
just-
like
A send off.
a send off, something.
I'm going to say this one as well. This is a very slippery slope, and you do not have to deep dive into this if you don't want to, but the League of Legends show, Arcane.
Yes.
It's an animated one. It's in Netflix. First season, second season's coming. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the game. You obviously,
Yeah,
you're a
I
huge
play it
fan
all
of
the
it. You
time.
play it all the time, so I'm learning from you. I've heard it's a really toxic community when it comes to the game.
Oh, gaming wise.
Right, gaming
It's
in
a
general.
competitive. It's a competitive game.
But
so
you know, the show is great.
any competitive game is going to be
So
toxic.
don't feel like you need to jump into the game or you need to know much about the game to get the show. I definitely recommend the show Arcane. There's a lot out there, man. Just, type in fantasy on your Fire Stick and see what pops up.
Yeah. And talking about Arcane, though, that's another show that really brought me into the world, too. And again, because I am a fan of League of Legends, I absolutely loved it. It was great. The animation is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, it's
Beautiful
such a
animation,
different
man.
animation.
It is.
Oh, and it's kind of that animation that I wish there was more of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those types of animations that, I love it.
So
great.
the very last thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up is just real quick. I know we can get into it, but you mentioned Avatar as fantasy. Avatar is very sciencey. It's
Yeah, it is.
futuristic and all stuff. So are there any other shows or movies out there that you would consider fantasy that might not seem with your swords and your knights and your quests in faraway lands?
Well, I'm going to just bring this one up just because I'm a fan of it. It's more video game. They made a movie of it, but it got butchered pretty bad.
Okay.
But it's Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah, it's definitely fantasy.
Monster Hunter for me is definitely if you haven't played the game, I mean, it's all fantasy, literally. There's a lot of dragons and all types of these mythical creatures
Right.
that you fight against, and they're beautiful. And that's what I think the movie really.
Well, I think
They brought in a military combo to
well,
it,
I think
and it was
that's one thing I feel that some people in Hollywood like to do is they like to modernize or bring in or humanize, maybe not humanize, maybe to try to they're not going to get it unless we connect it with somehow soldiers or actual our people,
yeah.
like our
And
world.
I think it's because they're focusing more on the aspect of the people that don't play the
Yeah.
game,
Okay.
or don't know anything about it, which I understand, but for the fandom who are a fan of this, it just really was horrible.
Yeah, but you could have made a movie without any of that, and it still would have
Yeah.
been successful. Because people don't go to the movies to see. Oh, I remember when my
Like
uncle
they
was
could
in
have
the
created
military.
their own world
Yes.
there. I mean, just kind of like Avatar, where there's a community of it that was, built off of that.
Right.
I feel like they could have done that with this movie.
Definitely.
They should have just built tell a story of what Monster Hunters. Why are they hunting for
Yeah, exactly.
monsters?
Yeah, what's the story
what's
there?
the story of that,
Yeah.
and what's the reason for it behind it? And I think they missed the point on that.
Yeah, don't just bring in Mia Jovovich.
Yeah, exactly.
But
But-
yeah, so that's another one, I guess. I mean, that's definitely fantasy. I think the movie is more of where it kind of toes the line because it's obviously
Yes.
has soldiers and real world things
Yeah.
in it. But to me, I kind of wrestle this back in my head, the show Black Sails. It's a pirate show. It takes place during the Golden Age of piracy. It has real pirates in it, but it's the prequel to the book Treasure Island, which is
Yeah.
obviously a story. So is that fantasy or is that history?
I feel like it's historical.
Fiction.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing
Yeah.
with Outlander to me.
Yeah.
Is it's real people, real places, real times, real conflict, but they can time travel.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Pirates of the Caribbean, fantasy.
Yeah, and that's where I don't know. It's kind of hard. I see fantasy in it, but at the same time,
The first movie to me is the one that I could see more
Yeah.
of historical because it's very piratey
yep.
with the curse.
Yep.
Once you start getting into Davy Jones and the others sort of the
Calypso.
Calypso and everything,
Yeah.
that's when you kind of start going to the fantasy side of everything. So definitely still fantasy overall. I mean, of course, and almost everything Disney puts out is fantasy,
Yep.
but that's what Disney's good at.
Again, why I'm really wanting more of the face
Maleficent, yeah.
on Maleficent, just because it screams out fantasy. I mean, Sleeping Beauty,
Yep.
Maleficent was definitely screaming out fantasy. and I want more. I want
Well, yeah.
more.
Why
I want
why
more.
remake all your movies live action when you have this untapped world that you can just start writing your own
Just
thing?
going to the Fae and
Yep.
all of that. Oh, I would love it. I think it would be great.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for us. We appreciate you listening. Thank you for
And-
5 wonderful episodes. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if you have also guys, like I said, we're more than likely to be doing a part 2 of this
Yep.
because there is so much more to talk about for the fantasy genre and world aspect of course of it. If there is anything that we either miss or something that you want to add into this, or there is a fandom that you really like
Yeah.
that you want us to talk about, let us know in the comments. Or if you also like to be part of the show, we would love to bring a guest in regarding this.
Definitely.
That really is, a big fantasy guru pretty much.
Yeah.
Let us know, and we would love to bring you on
Yep.
and talk about it. So, yeah.
Again, thank you. This podcast will be available on all apps and whatnot where you get your podcast, Facebook, Instagram, everything. Please don't forget to like and rate us if possible.
Spotify,
Spotify
Apple.
on Apple. We're not asking for 5-star ratings. Just rate us. It definitely helps us to be found.
Yes.
That's what it is for. It's not saying that we're the best podcast in the world, but it just helps us to be found. That way you don't have to go digging through 600 pages of podcasts to find us or
Yes.
new people to find us.
Yeah.
So,
But no, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and we really appreciate y'all's all the support and love and the feedback.
Yep.
Everything's been so positive so far, so we're excited to continue on and give you more and more. So,
all right, guys. We'll see y'all next week.
see ya in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.